This month on 219 West, Election 2012, Ferrying for Change. Nuns on the ferry speak out against the Republicans' proposed cuts to social programs they feel will hurt those who have the least.
We Catholic sisters, we work in those services, and we know how it will hurt hardworking people in our nation.
We're just so used to having being kind of the underdog.
And jumping for Haiti, an update. We catch up with triple jumper Samir Lane on life after the London Summer Olympics. Welcome to 219 West. I'm Melissa Noel.
And I'm Amital Isaac. We have those stories plus a look at another key voting bloc in New York, Arab Americans. So what's on New York voters' minds? Less than a month away from the presidential election, the candidates may not be here very often, but the issues they are fighting over certainly are.
But before we look at this year's race, let's review how President Obama won. He defeated Senator John McCain with 53% of the popular vote. Now let's break that down. Not surprisingly, 95% of black voters cast their ballots for Obama. He took 2/3 of the youth vote, voters ages 18 to 29. McCain was more popular among the older voters. More than half of female voters voted for Obama, but slightly less than half of male voters supported him.
In 2008, the world was sinking into the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. The unemployment rate on Election Day 2008 was 6.8%, and by inauguration, it had increased by 1 whole percentage point and continued to rise. Lower-income Americans overwhelmingly supported Obama. Among wealthier Americans, those making more than $100,000 a year, the vote was split evenly. Since then, the recession has ended, but the nation's unemployment rate has remained stubbornly high. 4 years later, as we approach the next presidential election and Obama faces a new challenger, the economy is still the top issue on voters' minds.
In the first presidential debate, there was much sparring over the economy, job creation, taxes, and the deficit. Much of the discussion centers around the middle class, with less focus on the plight of those who are on the lowest rungs of the economic ladder. One unexpected group of women is leading the charge for those whose needs are most dire. As 219 West Kate Traficanti reports, amidst the spray of the Staten Island ferry, Catholic nuns are lobbying for change.
The Staten Island ferry echoed with cheers for Sister Simone Campbell, a sister of social service and newfound celebrity. Hundreds of Catholic sisters and supporters gathered at South Ferry this month as Campbell and the nuns on the bus brought their protest to New York City. The nuns on the bus are an interesting tale of 9 states, 2,700 miles, and making lemons from lemonade. American nuns had a spotlight thrown on them in April when the Vatican criticized the League of Women Religious, a group representing nearly 57,000 American nuns, for radical feminism and caring too much for social justice over moral objections. But the attacks from Rome had the opposite effect than intended, by giving groups like Network and Sister Simone Campbell a national megaphone. And from appearances on late-night television to speaking at the Democratic National Convention, it's one they have used to bring attention to the very social justice issues in which they care about. Mary Yelnick is the former head co-chair of Network, one of only 2 registered lobbies on Capitol Hill that deals exclusively with issues of poverty. Founded by Catholic sisters in 1971, Network's mission for the past several months has been to highlight what they see as the consequences of the Path to Prosperity budget. The Path to Prosperity, or so-called Ryan budget, is a budget proposal adopted by the House of Representatives in April, put forward by Representative and now Vice Presidential nominee Paul Ryan. Both the bus tour and the ferry are a protest to a budget Sister Mary Ellen Lacey says favors the wealthy over the poor.
Ryan budget justifies poverty, and there is no Catholic social justice teaching. There is no any other religious teaching which justifies poverty.
Ryan budget would decimate social services, and we Catholic sisters, we work in those services, and we know how it will hurt hardworking people in our nation.
The group Network objects to increased Pentagon spending and continued tax breaks for the wealthy, while nearly two-thirds of the funds being cut is to programs supporting those who have the least. Resources that, if taken away, would threaten people like Renee Fleming. After years of battling drug addiction and serving prison time, Renee is getting a second chance at Providence House in Brooklyn. Founded and run by the Sisters of St. Joseph, Providence House has helped over 12,000 female parolees and their children turn over a new leaf. Sister Janet Kinney is executive director of Providence House. A supporter of Network's mission, she attended and spoke at the ferry event. Though she believes that helping the poor goes beyond the simple dollars and cents, there are real financial savings as well. Sister Janet Kinney, like the women of Network, are politically savvy women religious able to reconcile their moral beliefs with the harsh realities of effecting change.
Thousands of sisters work on the ground, but I became aware a long time ago that unless something changed in federal policy, there's just going to be an escalation of what's needed.
On the ferry ride, now their message of politics and faith, an alternative plan made by various faith leaders. Among other things, it proposes raising taxes on those who can afford it and spending more on foreign humanitarian aid rather than on the military. The goal is keeping vital resources for the poor intact. And as the election season soldiers on, the Sisters of Network find their voices reaching receptive ears as they spread their message of politics and faith.
I think people have been very much in need of hope and of something that speaks a positive message and does something fun and positive to bring attention to something that's really devastating.
This is Kate Traficante for 219 West.
In the presidential election, New York seems to be a lock for President Obama. For years, the city has had an overwhelmingly Democratic registration. But some people are doing their best to change that. 219 West's Justin Mitchell has more.
Street fairs, you have to go to parks, you have to go, you know.
I care. I care about, and a lot of times it's an upward battle because I've done this for 4 or 5 years now, and we really don't have a shot in a lot of these races. The voter registration is just so against us, but you have to do it.
Yeah, something important happening.
Yeah,
Yeah, really important.
yeah. So I'm listening to it because obviously I have. From all around the world.
We have the engine of growth is going to be. Automatic.
Swing ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, nice to meet you.
See you around the neighborhood.
All right, thanks.
They'll reach out for each and every vote, even if it means one flyer at a time. Justin Mitchell, Manhattan.
These last few years have been historic for the gay rights movement. Many activists credit President Obama for pushing through the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell and expressing his support for marriage equality. But as 219 West Alexander Tucciaroni reports, these aren't the only issues that concern gay voters.
Chris Bell says he is still undecided about who will vote for this November, but he's leaning towards Mitt Romney. That's not surprising, since polls show that the economy is the #1 issue for most Americans. But Bell, a self-described independent, is a gay man. Polls also show that gay men and lesbians overwhelmingly back President Obama, especially since the president voiced his support for marriage equality.
It is important for me to go ahead and affirm that I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
Chris is also a professional dancer and is concerned about what a struggling economy means for his career prospects. According to 2008 exit polls, an estimated 20% of gay voters supported the Republican ticket that year. This figure went up to almost 1 in 3 gay voters in the 2010 midterm elections, a trend that potentially bodes well for Governor Romney as he seeks to improve on the McCain-Palin ticket's performance among gay voters.
I believe marriage is between a man and a woman. That's my view.
Mitt Romney may be against marriage equality, but conservative commentator and journalism professor Dorian Davis is a gay man who strongly supports the Republican ticket.
Republican platform this year is a total disaster. I was very unhappy to see the homage to marriage between a man and a woman, but no one votes based on one issue, or at least no sane person votes based on one issue or even 2 issues. When you have an election, especially a presidential election, there are a whole matrix of issues that I vote on at least.
Greg Angelo is chairman of the New York Log Cabin Republicans, a pro-gay rights caucus within the Republican Party. He believes that President Obama's record on gay rights deserves some context.
It's interesting. President Obama has something of a wishy-washy record on gay rights. You have repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell that occurred with bipartisan support in Congress that also wouldn't have taken place had Log Cabin Republicans not been involved in a lawsuit that made sure to hold the president's feet to the fire. You have a personal support of marriage equality that he stated, where he also states that he believes that this is an issue that should be left to the states, essentially reiterating the same opinion that Dick Cheney had.
Gay rights groups have sometimes faced hostility within the Republican Party, but for Scott Spiegel, a member of the Log Cabin Republicans, hostility tends to come from the other direction.
Online with social media, I've been unfriended, hidden, blocked, unfollowed many times by liberals for being conservative.
For Chris, economic issues still take priority over issues of gay rights, and all this back and forth is just a natural part of living in a democracy. With just over a month until the election, both campaigns will be working day and night to win over the support of voters like Chris. Alexander Tucciaroni, 219 West.
In the upcoming presidential debates, the focus will turn to foreign policy. Among the major issues, what to do about Iran and the seemingly stagnant Middle East peace process. As a candidate, Obama promised overtures to the Arab world. Polls in 2008 indicated broad support for him that year. A new poll by the Arab American Institute reports a 15% drop in support for the president among Arab American voters. 219 West's Bridget Syed looks at the reasons why.
It is precisely because we believe so strongly in the aspirations of the Palestinian people that America has invested so much time and so much effort in the building of a Palestinian state.
I have no hope in the Obama administration or in a potential Romney administration that there will be peace. And for me to think that Obama or Romney are going to be the ones, I don't really think that that's not where my hopes are laying right now.
I worry about my situation as any regular American who pays his taxes and wants to see a better quality of life. And I care about this country, and I like to see it getting stronger.
When you ask Arab Americans, what are your number one concerns? Sure, they care about civil liberties. Sure, they care about the Middle East and our foreign policy. But their number one concern is the economy. And after that, there's health care. I mean, they are like everybody else on earth, people who need jobs, want to stay well, and want to see their kids succeed.
Another key issue for Arab Americans this year, as it has been for more than a decade, is how they are perceived by other Americans.
We've seen more violations against the civil rights of Arabs and Muslims, South Asian Americans than we've ever seen, probably ever. This fixation on domestic extremism and radicalization in the Muslim community, it's been not good. It hasn't been a good 10 years for our community.
My image has been tarnished. our situation is very tenuous. We have been unable to really present ourselves as decent American even. Our loyalty has been questioned.
Sentiments like that don't easily translate into a choice for one candidate or the other. The polling suggests that despite erosion in Arab American support for President Obama, they remain in his camp. And with results showing greater concern about the economy, the Arab American vote is becoming more like the rest of the electorate, with less than a month before Election Day. For 219 West, I'm Bridget Sayage.
Recently, we told you the story of Haitian American Samir Lane, a lawyer and Olympic athlete going for gold at the London Summer Games. While his quest for a medal may have come up short, he is now looking forward to jumping into the next phase of his life. Earlier, I sat down with him to talk about his new initiatives. Samir, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. So we're so excited to hear about what you've been up to since competing in the 2012 London Olympics. I know that you competed both nationally and internationally before, but this was the first time you actually competed in the Olympics. Tell me what that was like. You're a native New Yorker, and I know you had the opportunity to try out for Team USA. So why did you decide to represent Haiti at the Olympics instead of the USA? So you feel like your role representing Haiti in the Olympics kind of will help to inspire people? What has the feedback been from the Haitian community, leading up to your performance at the Olympics and now that, the Olympics are done? Another interesting fact about you is that you were actually Mark Zuckerberg's roommate freshman year at Harvard.
Yeah.
So, and you were like the 14th person, if I'm not mistaken, to sign up for Facebook. So did you hear from Zuckerberg at all before competing or after? So I know that you started a foundation called Jump for Haiti. Can you explain to me a little bit about what the foundation does and what do you hope to do now that you have gotten it off the ground?
Excited about the country, excited about helping.
So when will be your next trip to Haiti, and will it be related to Jumping for Haiti, or will it just be like a personal trip, or a little bit of both?
Come down there,
that'd be good too.
Yeah.
So how has your Olympic experience changed you? So then what's next? Like I know like you had put a job offer on hold from a major New York City law firm to actually compete. So are you going to go to that law firm, or is it you're going to continue something? And so what can we expect for 2016 in Brazil? Might we be seeing you there? Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us. That's it for this month's edition of 219 West. I'm Melissa Noel.